Hello and welcome to the Art Beat of Chattanooga, where art lives on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. We're going to talk about all things art. We're going to talk about whatever we want. You're welcome to call in. I'll give you that phone number pretty soon. We're here today with Adam Kirby, a local artist who's involved in a lot of things in Chattanooga, a lot of very cool things that I keep talking about. This generation of artists, this kind of the up and coming young artists in Chattanooga, and they are brilliant, dedicated, talented people, and they're serious artists and serious business people. So we're going to talk about a lot of things happening in Chattanooga that Adam's involved in. And I want to thank Judah Guitars and Will Fix at Judah Guitars, located on near Saudi Daisy on Middle Valley and Boy Scout Road. And he's awesome. The guitars are awesome. Go there because all your wildest dreams will come true. So thank you, Will, and Judah Guitars. So, also I'm looking always for artists, musicians, theater, comedy, anything that you want, even children's arts, people involved with children, to talk about these things on this show, to talk about especially volunteerism, fundraising, how the arts crosses over into that, and how much of an impact that has on society. And it has forever, ever since art existed. It is a symbol of society, and it speaks about and to society. So, if you have something to share, email the station, Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and just let's talk about it. So maybe you can come on the show and share your cause. All right. So thanks a lot. So Adam Kirby, involved with many, many things, a local artist who really likes to shoot things for the most part that I know, likes to tear down walls and make creative things with them. So very tactile, very physical artwork, Adam. So can you kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody what you've got to share today?
Well, thanks, first of all, for having me, Jill. I'm Adam Kirby. I'm an artist, local artist from Chattanooga, born and raised. I'm also art is almost 20% of what I do. I do a lot of various things all throughout the city, and kind of what I want to talk about today. Because even what you just said is there's a sort of a new generation of people who are just wanting to do things. It's not just art related, but it's just almost, I would say, passion related. But me personally, I do shoot things. I have a whole series of artwork where I make ceramics sculptures that I sculpt by shooting it with guns. That's sort of what I've become a little bit known for. But yeah, that's not all that I do, even in the art world. The other
do you have classes? Can people come and do this fun stuff and shoot clay with you?
They can reach out to me. It's really fun, honestly.
It sounds like a riot.
No, it's a great time.
I've got an idea we'll talk about after the show with a local business.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Very cool.
It's just a fun process.
I want to do it.
Yeah, there you go. Come with me. Yeah, let's go and shoot.
I totally want to do it.
But my mentality is this. I think guns are a neutral thing. A lot of people ask me where do I stand on guns, and that's one of the first things that always comes up with my artwork. And my mentality is simple. I use a gun as a tool to create art. That's the only use that I have with guns at this present time. That's all I do.
But you must think it's fun, and something drew you to choose guns. So
no,
how does that work into things? You said passion. That word catches me as an artist. We are about passion. And I thought about this on the way over here, Adam, like, what is with us artists? I'm looking at the potential of a full-time job because I work 3 part-time jobs, but I can't put the art below everything. And yet it doesn't pay the bills, really.
Nope.
And I just can't stop.
I think it's just a character flaw. I think we're very flawed individuals who are just so passionate that, money and security is second to what we care about. And that's at least how I feel. I personally feel as though everything I do, and I'm in the same boat. It's not really about I'm not looking to be the most wealthy person. And honestly, I just try to get by each day. But what I do actually do in my time is I spend it living creatively, which is a character within me. I don't make that happen. A lot of my artist friends and I talk a lot, and one thing we always kind of talk about is how art is something you don't turn off. I walk around a lot. I love walking. I love riding my bike. I even love mowing the lawn. I love doing physical activities because what I do in those times, the repetitive motion I'm actually thinking the entire time. I can't stop thinking, and I can't stop creating in my mind and stories or art pieces, or I start thinking about the world around me. I mean, when I look at this might be cliche, but when I look at a sunset, I think of a lot of different things. I even think about how looking at a sunset makes you think about a lot of different things. So it's all related. It's just who we are.
So you look at the sunset, and like for me, I literally now I look at the beauty and feel the universal love of that scene and that whole distant feeling and sense and connection that we get from it. But I'm also like in my head painting, which paint color is that? What brush would I use? What would I layer first? So that's every time I'm looking at something, I'm constantly painting or drawing.
Right.
It's like I see life in art.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's actually good. That one thing I like to say with my work is art is perception. And that's something that I wholly believe. Everyone has their own definition of art. It's kind of undefinable in that sense, except for each person has a way to define it. But for me, it's about perception, because I experienced something in life, sunset, and I want to share that experience with everyone else. So maybe I'm going to paint a landscape, or maybe the sunset makes me think about life in general, and I have an idea or philosophy that is literally inspired by that, and that is what comes into creation of art.
So are you also a writer? It sounds like with the way you're saying you're thinking, are you a writer?
You can say that. I've been actually trying to write a comic, and I constantly write. I even wrote my first poem the other day. I mean,
woo, first poem. That's awesome.
I could read it to you, but you might lose all of your listeners.
No. Do you have it with you?
It's on my phone. I could totally do it.
Okay, we'll read it in the second half.
All right, there you go. Well, yeah. I'll pull it out.
Y'all can look forward to that. Adam Kirby's first poem read live on AM 1240.
What have I done?
On the Art Beat of Chattanooga. We're not putting any pressure on you.
No, it's okay. I'll do it. That's another thing. I'm a doer. I will take on every challenge. It's another character flaw of mine.
You will be my first poet with your first poem, because I have been seeking a poet.
But I have written something in there for him.
You're on our poet. I quoted a poem, so let's do it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can read both. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at too. Is just I'm a creative person. I'm a thinker. You're right. I would say a writer. I'm a thinker, and I write in my head. I believe I have a set group of moral values and ideals that I constantly think about. I like to tell people that I'm Socrates, not Plato, which means I don't write. Socrates wasn't known for writing; he was just known for speaking. Plato sort of wrote everything. Plato was the writer, and I'm trying to fix that. And it's a really good thing for all the listeners out there. Like, one thing I'm starting to realize is if you really have to force yourself to be different and to improve, that my best side of me is creativity. That comes naturally. I don't have to try. And it's a talent, or some sort of skill of mine that just is there.
It's more like when you're not doing it, you have to forcefully stop it. You have to put it aside, and it's always pressing to come back out.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to work at what I call like the regular jobs, things that I don't normally. I mean, I can go on to that for a while actually, but things that wouldn't really allow me to be creative, and it's a toxic environment for me because my natural being is creative. And what I was going to go on too is sort of talking about what I don't always do is doing. I'm not always. I have all these ideas and these thoughts. They're there, and I create things in my mind, but that doesn't mean I physically make them. I have to make myself do that, like the poem, like writing. I always tell stories to my friends. I have like a long list of stories that they tell me are really great. They love hearing them, but I don't write them, and that is something new that I'm trying to do. And as I've been doing it, even though when I was a kid, I thought when I was growing up in school, I struggled with writing. I struggled with everything, but writing and language was actually my biggest hindrance. In fact, I was in speech classes most of my upbringing in middle school and elementary school, and I was convinced that I could not do things. And I honestly think that mentality growing up was what is part of who I am today. This idea that I couldn't achieve things, that people told me no all my life. That happens to me still today. We'll talk about everything that I'm a part of, but everyone's like, you're too divided, you're too spread apart. You gotta focus on one thing. It's just not me.
It's really hard to do that, because once you get into, if you have a dream, like I have a dream, I have a vision, and I'm working on it happening, but I don't necessarily feel equipped that I can handle all the aspects of that dream coming forth. I'm going to need a village.
Right.
But it requires so many avenues of connection for the universe to put together the steps to actually make that happen.
Right.
And so like you're saying, you've got all these tentacles in different areas, but they're always working and building toward your dream.
Right, which is sort of what is the constant. People say I need to go find a
Mhm.
constant thing. My constant thing is that I'm constantly creating. I'm constantly doing things, and almost I work best in a chaotic environment. I work best when there's some sort of problem that is presented to me, and have to create a creative solution to it. Creative problem solving, and it to others might seem hectic and it might seem crazy, but to me, it is actually hectic and crazy to me. But I'm okay with it, and I work best at it.
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of motivated individuals. Say if you were at a regular job, you have a list of duties you're going to perform. You're motivated to perform them because they're
Right.
there. So we do need structure.
Mhm.
If we all just sit around with hookah pipes and, thinking about our artwork, we're not going to produce it.
I like that. That's the picture everyone's gonna give me now. Is the hookah
Yeah.
pipe? I know it's perfect.
Yeah,
I have a hookah pipe right now. No, I'm kidding.
Great. They're legal, guys. Seriously, it's just tobacco.
No, you'll see on the thing.
Yeah.
I don't actually have a hookah pipe with me.
We'll have to talk about hookah
Next
pipes
time.
next time.
It will just be a hookah session. But no.
Well, the lights dark. We'll have the guys bring them up, like a very classy
Yeah.
hookah thing, and show the world how that works.
Tambourine.
So yeah, I have tambourine.
But yeah, we kind of trailed off there. Almost lost. Working and another thing too with that. Even me and a job, even the regular job that we keep talking about. When I'm there, I'm always trying to improve, and that's another aspect of me as a person. I think another aspect. It's not just me; it's artists. It's the doers out there that I still have to force myself to do it, but it is a part of me. And then that is when I work at any job. I'm not the person who just sort of gets the job done, and goes home. I'm the person I'm doing the job, and I start to think about it. I start to really, really get my mind around it, and I'll start to say, what this would be going a lot better if we did it a little bit differently. And honestly, that's what messes me up at jobs a lot, is that I'm the person who I'm always going up to the people who are in charge and managing things. I'm like, hey, here's my idea. I really think we should do this a little bit differently. We could probably do this and it'll produce more. And a lot of times, not to brag, but I'm going to, I'm right. And that can be an issue. And sometimes, and that's why I like to work for myself. We'll talk about that later. But
yeah, that's the whole politics thing, and also corporate rules. And I understand.
Right.
I get that same thing. I'm a thinker too, and creating solutions for work and things like that. It's interesting conversation we're having today, because I'm kind of in that same realm of which way to go, which way to stay.
Right.
Trust the avenue I'm on with way too many things to keep track of, because it's more focused on the art, or go with, a little more stability. And,
I think there's an ebb and flow.
Yeah.
In my experience, I'd say I've been an artist for about 3 years now. And that's really just to say I've learned how to live with very little. That's what I tell people. That's what really being an artist is. And what I would say to that is that, I think there's an ebb and flow. I think survival kind of kicks in, and whatever you have to do, you have to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. If I spend a year working at a regular job to, make money, that's a good thing. And as long as I do not lose that which I gained in that creative world, that chaotic creative world.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're involved in a lot of things. Let me see what kind of time we have here. We do have time to go over this. We're talking to Adam Kirby on Hot News Talk Radio, the Art Beat of Chattanooga, and I'm your host, Jillian Collins, another local artist, and kind of meeting a lot of people in Chattanooga who have a similar vision for the arts, to elevate the awareness, to kind of almost go back to the Renaissance, where it's one of the bigger things in society that everyone's talking about, and it's changing society, because that's what art does. It reflects, it changes, it challenges. And, so it's really exciting that in Chattanooga, there's a lot of creative, talented artists that are very brilliant and productive, working very hard to bring our town an awareness and a place in the world that we're going to be known for. This is a fantastically creative town of artists, including all of you, musicians, theater, everything, poets, writers, improv, everything. So that's what we're going to be talking about. But Adam has a lot of things he's involved in. So why don't you kind of start going on through this, Adam? Let us know what these connections and chaotic things are.
All right. I think it's best to, if I'm going to do that, sort of to give you the spiel of my life and how everything happened, because I think that's important to understand the order of which things happen, to sort of get an idea of how I got involved.
All right.
To start off, I was a student at UTC. And I did.
I was glad you didn't start with when I was born.
The day when I was born, I had a paintbrush. No. I was a student at UTC, and I graduated UTC with a BFA in 3D art. While I was there, I did graphic design. Really loved that. I switched over to ceramics, and I switched over to sculpture. When I switched over to ceramics, I met a guy named Shadow May. I don't know if you know of him, but he's a really well-known artist here in Chattanooga. He's a ceramic artist. He makes these amazing, gigantic, ceramic sculptures. He's really pushing the boundaries of ceramics, and he's a direct influence of my personal art life. He was my mentor for about 3 to 5 years. That's hard a thing to say because we're still great friends. I still see him all the time, so I still say he's my mentor. But I mean, I literally worked underneath him. He came to UTC to do sort of a semester long ceramic course, and he met me there, and I guess he just saw something within me and also knew that I could lift heavy objects, which is what he was going to be creating, which I think is more accurate to why he needed me. But he told me that I thought, you have really good talent, a natural talent and gift with clay, which was funny because I've never touched clay before that point. And he made me his apprentice, and we worked side by side on building those amazing sculptures. And what was a really unique experience for me at that point was I was at UTC. UTC, their art program really focuses on the sort of contemporary sort of mentalities of art. They're trying to expand your mind rather than focusing just on the skills and craft there. That's definitely taught there, but it's more about art history, what art is, what art should be, what art is like currently. Really, critical thinking mentalities of the art world.
Yeah, I have a friend that's a student in the art program at UTC, and I see a lot of her assignments in her work, and it's very interesting. I can see that they're pushing the boundaries of their mind and the options of how they can create their art, and all of these things. I mean, I sat there and helped her curl these little coil things because she had to do 50 of them before the next class, 50 little coil sculptures.
No.
I had to try one, of course.
She's gonna have her grade.
Sorry, Sierra. Oh no, I kept that one. She did all 50 herself.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's a good point. That's what they're doing, and that's what they focus on, and they'll tell you that too. But what was nice about Shadow was that he is an actually working artist, and he is a successful working artist. And for me, when I was at UTC, I would go to UTC and I would get this sort of critical thinking down, and I would leave and go work for him and help him create these gigantic, really detailed oriented sculptures. And I also went all over America with him, going to art shows that he was in, seeing him win awards, doing amazing. And what was good for me for that was I got the two worlds. There is a lot of division, I think, in the art world, which is a shame. I think it's a bad thing. But what was great about that is I saw his world as a working artist creating things, and he really taught me how to work hard, which is a whole thing I could talk about too. He really made me a better worker in general, and the mindset of working where he wakes up at like 5 a.m. and gets to work in his studio, and that's what he does every single day. And he's lifting like 50 pounds of bags of clay, and I did this too, like side by side, wedging really heavy bags of clay, or just clay in general, not bags of clay, but and creating these large sculptures. And then I would go to UTC and learn about why art is what it is and how it became what it is. And then also while working for him, which kind of leads into my artwork, I worked for his brother, which he had a construction crew, and I never did construction, but my dad was a construction worker, and my grandfather was a construction worker. I just didn't get that mentalities from them. But I think it's definitely in my blood. I mean, I started working for Shadow's brother, and I paid my way through college, with the help of my mom and grants and things like that. But I paid my way through college by building houses. That's how I learned. And what the beauty of it is, I would go work for Shadow, go work in construction, go learn at UTC, and then I was in the sculpture department too. So I was working with like really heavy machinery, doing really fine, detailed, creative work, while also going and building a house, which is less detail oriented, but still learning. And all these things were happening at the same time. And when I got in my senior year, my dad got really, really ill. He was actually in the hospital for like 6 months. It was really a hard time, and he was at Erlanger, and Erlanger's right next to UTC. So I just stayed with him. I stayed there and I walked to UTC or vice versa. And I took care of him during that time. And here's the point I'm trying to get at is that I learned something from that experience is that this was my senior year, so I had to make my senior project, which takes the entire year. I was already halfway through that year, so I only had a half a year left. And my dad was in the hospital, and I learned that he built the room he was in because he was a construction worker, right? And my grandfather, he ran a backhoe, and he actually dug out the foundation for that whole wing.
Well, that's a cliffhanger because now we have to wait until the next segment to find out Adam's true calling and how construction affected his artwork. So thank you so much for joining us for the first half of the Art Beat of Chattanooga. We'll be back in a little bit talking to Adam Kirby. I'm Jill Ann Collins, your host, and this is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. You can hear us on YouTube. You can see us live on YouTube, TuneIn Radio. You can go to Facebook and see us live. So see you in a few minutes. Come and visit.
But my soldiers stay eternal.
Now you can listen to Hot News Talk Radio anywhere streaming live at NugaRadio.com. That's NugaRadio.com.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Wow, we're not in Kansas anymore. Check out all these awesome guitars, amps, pedals, banjos, and so much more.
Suddenly, you're transported. You are on stage. Anticipation. Your fans are counting on you. You begin to play. Ecstasy, excitement, artistry and chaos, thundering applause, rock and roll.
Charvel, Gretsch, Supro, Jackson, EVH. Fulfill your dreams. Guitar, piano lessons, and more. Located at the corner of Boy Scout and Middle Valley Road in Soddy Daisy. Judah Guitar Music Store, where all your wildest dreams come true. Call 423-618-9911. Judah Guitar Music Store, where all your wildest dreams come true.
This is Mike at For the Record at Northgate Mall. We're the largest complete record store in town. We sell old and new vinyl records, celebrity posters, music posters, and we are the largest in town. Come see us.
Hi, I'm Adam Disbrow, the owner and the head surgeon of Cell Surgeon. Broken screen? You need it repaired now. We can do that. We'll have your phone repaired within the hour. No hassle, no mess, no stress. We love fixing cell phones. Your cell phone has become part of your daily activities. You've noticed your cell phone is not charging properly. It could be a charge port issue or your charger. Come in for free. We'll test your phone and your charger. You have an expensive phone. Don't feed it with a cheap charger. A cheap charger can actually damage your device. Our high quality chargers are affordable. Cell Surgeon, 140 Northgate Mall Drive, right next to Old Chicago Pizza. 423-668-0100. www.thecellsurgeon.com. Please like us on Facebook at facebook.com/thecellsurgeon.
Get $10 off a screen repair. Mention Hot News Talk Radio. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out. Cell Surgeon in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at sabrinarealty.com.
in the middle of our street.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A Chattanooga man who was on the top 10 most wanted list from the TBI, accused of shooting 3 people, has now had his motive released. Police say Stephen Mobley's Labor Day rampage began when he gunned down 3 people for throwing up inside of his house. He then went on the run. He eventually turned himself in on Wednesday to a police officer at a gas station with his aunt. A man in Leggett Road on Sail Creek was firing cracked shots at cops from the windows of his house. His family says he was depressed and was making threats against himself. Authorities say they fired at officers several times and they fired back. He was eventually coaxed out of the building and taken into custody, charged with reckless endangerment felony. International superstar Usher is wanting your help to help out the Hamilton County schools. He set up a donation point at the Tennessee Pavilion today from 5 to 7 p.m. where you can donate art supplies of all sorts to Hamilton County schools. He's also having a private concert. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Expect mostly sunny, hot, and dry weather out there through the afternoon. Highs once again back into the lower to middle 90s. Tonight, fair lows into the upper 60s. For Friday and Saturday, not much change. Still looking dry with hot afternoons and some sunshine and highs into the lower to middle 90s. This forecast is brought to you by Hamilton Medical Center in Dalton, featuring their neurosurgery and spine center open in Calhoun, Georgia. Stop putting up with the back pain. For more, 706-529-9041. And I'm Storm Gene 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Welcome back to the Art Beat of Chattanooga, where art lives at Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. I'm your host, Jillian Collins, and we're here today with Adam Kirby, another local artist and entrepreneur. So we've been talking about his philosophies of art and how it relates to society. For Adam, I'm getting that it's a societal statement, it's an intellectual statement, and that everything you do expresses a feeling, which is truly art. And you use a lot of interesting techniques that are pretty cool. So, like we were talking before the break about basically your dad, your granddad, right, and how
I can go right back into
let's get back to that, because
all right,
some people were.
Yeah, no, I understand. Basically,
so if you were watching the Facebook live feed, this part won't be on there, so you got to get into the YouTube feed now. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Basically, what we're talking about is my first experience meeting Shadow May, who's an artist, being his apprentice, and he works in ceramics. And then also I was at UTC, and I was in my senior year, learning from UTC's curriculum while also trying to create my senior project. And at that time, you have a whole year to make this senior project for the art classes at UTC. And at that time, I was already more than halfway through my senior project. I actually already created my project. I was basically done. But my dad went to the hospital. He got really, really ill. He's fine now, just let everyone know. But he was in the hospital for about 6 months. And during that time, he was at Erlanger. And Erlanger is right next to UTC, so I just basically stayed with him a lot of the time and went to UTC to work and go to school, and then went back to my dad and took care of him, looked after him. But another thing we were talking about was how I was a construction worker, and that Shadow's brother had a construction crew, and I worked with him, and that was the first time I ever doing construction, and how I really had a unique experiences being an apprentice for a well-known, successful artist, working at UTC and learning about art, going to be a construction worker and actually building things to pay my way through college. And then this kind of leads us to where we are now, where my dad, he was a construction worker his whole life, and my grandfather was too. And when he was in the hospital, I had learned that he built the room that he was in. Basically, he put it the walls and the ceiling And then my grandfather actually dug. He ran a backhoe and he dug out the foundation for that wing. And something about that really kind of hit me. I mean, it was a very traumatic time in my life. A lot of hardship during that whole year. A lot of death and a lot of dealing with things like that. That sort of always put me in sort of a thinking and pondering mood about life. And I remember one of my there's this like painting on the wall in that room, or it might have been outside his room. It was actually in his room, and it was basically a painting of a boat. And one of my family members had said, Adam, I've seen you draw. You draw really, really well. That's the kind of artwork you should make. You should make that, because that's art. And I sat there and I thought that the wall behind it was actually more artistic because the man in the room built it. And sort of, I started thinking a lot about that. That my dad, he was at a different point in his life when he was, trying to make money to, feed himself, to, food, and my brother food, and who knew, I have no idea what time he was making that, but the mentality of it, of him basically building this room, and then later in life, actually it's saving his life. And the whole thing, that the process of this wall that, you put a painting on or a picture on, becomes more artistic and more noticeable than the wall behind it. It was completely blank and no one ever notices it. And I started thinking a lot about that. That the world that we live in, we kind of take for granted for a lot of things that happen in our lives. And construction is one of those things. Right now we're in a building that people worked hard to build, and we have no idea about their lives. They did that to feed their families. They did that to, to stay alive. They were individuals just like we are, but we're completely detached from that. And I really got into that mentality, and I wanted, because I was actually building in construction work, I really found it beautiful. The process itself is beautiful. And I think there is a layer of beauty that comes in art. Like you have to either appreciate, you have to have strong emotion. It doesn't have to be beauty. It doesn't have to be positive emotion to make art, but you have to have a passion for it. You have to actually feel, or really feel or think something. And during that time, I was really reflecting the process of construction. And I wanted to make that process of construction and frame it in the mentality of art. And that's when I created this whole new series of work called Framed Construction.
And you have one with you, right? Can you grab it? Because we can, or maybe you don't want to grab it.
You can see it.
I don't know what this is on the screen here, but there we go.
You can see it if you're watching.
If you're on YouTube channel. And we can describe it for the listeners who can't see it so that they know what you got going on.
And this is a more current version of my work. Basically what it is the construction work that I make. And it's all the materials that go into building something. Abstract version. And I actually try to do a variety of different sort of what I call well-known successful works of art. Like I actually reflect other artists like Rothko, and he's like one of my favorite painters. And I make works that look like his work, but I do it with construction materials because my mindset is that I'm trying to show construction as art. And these things that are successful, like abstract art, which we have here today, I'm treating it the same way I would do an abstract painting, about emotion, about feeling. Each brush stroke, which isn't it's a brush stroke of red guard, which is a rubber sealant they use for tiling walls. And then each, I can guess you'd call it a grout stroke of the actual, or the thin set that's on there, which is gray. I'm being very, very like emotional when I'm applying it. And you can see that sort of in the painting. It looks like a painting, but when you get close, you'll see that it's actually drywall, that it's red guard, that it's thin set, that it's all these things that go into tiling a shower, things that you would actually use in the actual processes to it.
And you use some sort of something that makes like these lines all through there, a tool.
Yeah. I have that's a chalk line. I think is what you're referring to.
Yeah, the texture that you have in the grout.
That's actually what you use to grout or lay thin set down. It basically makes these grooves so the tile can actually sit upon it. And those are the actual tools you use to make into work in construction. So like I do actually restrict myself, and I force myself to use only materials and processes that actually happen in construction, but I still work and create in that artistic mentality.
That's a great, I mean, you had the universe kind of create your special palette there. It's a unique palette because you're using that concept that has a deep emotional meaning to you as a beginning point. So it's already art.
Yeah. And that's a good point. What we were talking about earlier was my basic idea of what art is, and everyone has their own definition, is that art is perception. We perceive something and we're trying to share it. And we use the landscape, you know, sort of mentality where you see a beautiful sunset and you want to share that with everyone. So you paint a sunset. For this, you know, I had an experience with my dad, and I was working in construction, and you know, him building that room, that a very emotional attachment to it. And I created something that represents that. You know, it reflects that, and that's what it is. It's my perception.
But you do other pieces of the same nature, the same construction material. You know, this one specific for your father? This piece here?
I would say that since I created that about, I want to say 3 years ago now, might be 2. But this piece here is actually very recent. So I've evolved that mentality. I've to press that further. I feel like artists. I work in series. I can't speak to what other artists do. I work in series. When I have a concept and idea that I feel is solid and good, sometimes, because there's another thing, it's if you had 20 artists all given the same idea, they would all make something completely different based off that idea. And that's sort of what this is. This is just another representation, that same concept, same what I call the foundation concept of my dad and the construction.
Got your water over there? Yeah. So series is a good way to work, and I can say I have the same type of work. I have a large variety of styles, and that can sometimes be a problem, but it happens. You know, like I'll have a whole series of this type of style or this concept, and some of it's very spiritual, like you're talking. I work in energy and color and motion, and I really paint more at this point in my life. I can paint or draw representationally, and occasionally I do to remind myself that I can, but now I paint from the heart, from just kind of let it go.
Right.
And there's images and all that, but I know what you're saying about having that basis of emotion, that basis of that somehow need we have, that we have thousands of images and designs and creations in our head.
Right.
And that drive to get them out, knowing you're never going to get them all out. You don't have time in this life.
Yeah. I mean,
you know?
it's a never-ending battle. I mean, that's another thing we were talking about earlier, that I can't really change being an artist. I can't stop that. It's just how I see the world. And I say art is really a symptom to a different cause of me as a person. Like it is something that just sort of happens, that I make art. Who I am, you can call that an artist, but I'm more just a creative person. I'm an idealist. I have a set of ideals that I strongly believe in, that reflect on everything I do, and art is a result of that. You know, I'm not the type of artist that I sit in my studio every day and I work like my mentor Shadow. Like he does that every single day. I've learned that I'm the artist that basically I have an idea. I have to really think long and hard about it, and I'll spend some of these pieces I've spent months actually designing, and I have a whole book of my design work and thinking about before I'll do a single thing to it. And then when I know what it's going to be, a little bit of time to actually really make it. But it's really that process of the emotions attached, the thought. I want to make sure everything is 100% what it needs to be. Artist, it's just how I work.
Yeah, I oftentimes when I have a picture in my head, that picture will just pour out with no effort. You know, there's other pieces that are constructed over years even that I do. I'm working on a piece now. 2 years it's been on and off. I've been working on that piece. She's going to be magnificent when she's done. She's a life-size mermaid. So she's pretty cool. So, you know, that whole series. So you do the clay. Do you have your piece here? Your
Oh yeah.
fired clay or whatever terminology you use for that. This piece that Adam's putting on the shelf here, we're going to let him tell you about it, but this is what I think is probably a really fun thing to do. You get to shoot this with a gun.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
I'm like, that just sounds like so much fun. So, and they turn out really amazing. And then you have a glaze process you usually put over them, and that's finished.
I don't really restrict myself when it comes to glazing and finishing. I use a variety of glazes that I get from friends who are also artists. Lauren Howard, who's an amazing potter, helps me a lot with that. To go back also to Shadow, the reason why I started making this work is Shadow's work was very new to the ceramic world. I would like to think that he's really pushing the boundaries of, and that mentality is what I kept on hearing when I was with him. The what ceramics could be and what he's trying to make it, and how he feels like it can go, and doing really, really like new and big things. The thing he actually we talked about is what was it? Spontaneous evolution, the term that we kind of came up together to define his work, where each time he made a piece, he did random sort of acts to it. Some thought out, some completely, emotionally just did it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was something that really, really stood out, aspects like things that he appreciated, have that. That's that spontaneous evolution mentality that each piece evolved. And something from that and how he treated clay. Maybe it was because it was the first time I worked in clay and I worked under him that really helped me out with that. But basically, I started thinking about that too. Like, what could clay do? And what is clay? I really thought, what makes it unique? And it's a malleable substance. It has memory. Everything you do to it.
Mm-hmm.
You put your thumb in clay, your thumbprint will be there. If you fire that piece of clay, turn into ceramics, become basically it's permanent until you break it. I really like that mentality, that it reflects action. It reflects things that you do to it. And I also really like shooting guns. I just enjoy shooting guns. They're fun pastime. I'm not a violent person. A lot of people tell me I make violent work, and actually, I made a performance piece recently about violence to sort of reflect on that. Where you can go to my website and check it out, adamkirby.org, and it's my performance section. But adamkirby.net.
AdamKirby.net to see
we'll put the links up.
Works that Adam has. Yes.
Where I actually punched clay, like I felt violent, and that was the performance piece. I had to be violent. It was a reflection of this work. The gun work is not violent. It's fun. And I basically took those two mentalities, the shooting things and clay being this malleable thing. I was like, it would be really interesting to actually shoot some clay. And I at first started off with me just wanting to shoot it as a target, and because I could remold it, and so it was like this awesome target that I could reuse over and over and over. First time I shot it, I just fell in love with it. I saw what was happening, was the ideas there that this bullet passing through and molding, literally molding, pushing the clay, and doing something I could never do with my hands.
Very interesting. So were you like a science geek when the matter and motion years came around, and forces and levers and all of that? Because that falls into that realm of science, really.
I was a geek or a nerd. I wasn't a successful one. I was too distracted with my own thoughts on it. I would appreciate physics and things like that, but then I would start trying to think of the why. I like to say that science really talks about the what and how and what things are. Art talks about why, which is this thing that really has no answer. Like why we're here, why things are the way they are.
That's a great point. It's like art and community talks about things. It talks about feelings. It talks about history. It talks about life and death and love, and even things that we can't describe. Like, why do we respond to abstract pieces? And we have an emotional response and an intellectual response. Brain in areas that are left dormant without it. Art actually increases intelligence. It keeps people smarter longer. It keeps things alive in society.
One person bought a piece for me and said something that really kind of touched me in the heart, basically. It was just something that I did not anticipate or expect, but she said that with my piece of art that I made, just that she wanted to wake up every single day and see that piece of art and be reminded of the words I said about it. Every single day, she wanted to see that and remember that mentality. And by having that piece, she could do that. It represented something.
What words did you put to the piece?
For that piece, it was actually a drawing about my grandfather. And it was completely unrelated to these works. But basically, I just kind of talked about, I think I should have talked about this story too with my dad and my grandfather. But it was more or less just the mentality that, what I said in that moment. I can't remember the exact words I told her, but it was I remember her words.
But she saw your vision.
Well, I thought what was beautiful of that is why people buy art. And some artists that I have, they hate the idea of selling art. They think it's wrong. And maybe it is. I don't know. I would have to say, for me personally, to make art and to sustain myself in this country, I have to make money. and that's the constant battle. That's my struggle. But I'm going to make art regardless, even if it kills me. But the beauty of that is by buying these art pieces, and I've had my gun work. Actually, everyone says they're great conversation pieces because everyone sees them. They're these crazy forms and things like that. But everyone's like, "What is this? How was this made?" And they say, "Oh, it's made with guns." And every single person has an opinion about guns. So even if it's good or bad, they say something. Yeah, so my mentality is that woman really kind of solidified that I'm totally fine with being an artist who tries to sell artwork so that someone could take it home with them and see this representational thing. I mean, it could be anything. I actually have a tattoo that I could talk about that too. That is another representation.
Yeah, we have
I'm also
just under 2 minutes,
so ignore the giant gash of pain. But it's basically 3 lines.
3 lines.
That after the break, or
we don't have another break, so just tell us what it is. We got a minute and a half or so.
Basically, it's this mentality that in your body you have cells, and cells die off, and they get replenished with new cells. And there's sort of this theory. It might not be 100% accurate, but I like the mentality behind it. That about every 7 years is a new body because you have new cells. So each line is a different person I've been 1 through 7, my years 1 through 7, right. And so when I look at that tattoo, I'm reminded of who have I been, and I'm also reminded of who I'm going to become, because when I turn 28, I'm going to get another line. So in each, it's going to evolve with me, a reminder of who I've been and who I'm trying to become. And the next time I get that next line, I'm striving to be a person worth being. That's wonderful. Yeah, it's a great affirmation on your body, to just constant affirmation to continue bettering yourself. And I think, like you said, you can't not do it. If you almost have to die, I mean literally, to not do art. And I've been to that point in life where my job interferes with my creative ability to the point that I don't feel I can even produce it, and I literally get almost crazy. I get that feeling that it has to be done. And yet I have like a house full of paintings. I have sold work, I do sell work, and I believe in selling work, because I think that is our method of tender. That's our method of exchange in this country. And it lets us know our lifeline. Our lifeline. And it lets us know that they love that work and they see that work, and it's going to be a part of their life. Well, thank you, Adam. Really interesting and really wonderful work. So AdamKirby.net. AdamKirby.net is the website. Thank you for joining us on the Art Beat of Chattanooga. And Swine Gallery is located at 100 West Main Street, and the Cinerama down there, if you have not gone, is a very cool, eclectic place. Look it up, Cinerama, and take a visit there. It's a lot of fun. So thanks a lot for joining us on Hot News Talk Radio. Have a great day.